You think your calm is real, but it gets edited before you notice. Someone can steer your choices by touching your pride, not your logic. If you want inner leverage, you must watch the silent triggers first. Most people believe control looks like shouting, pressure, and obvious threats. The real control is quieter, and it hides inside your own reactions. You never notice this, but your mind can be coached by repeated cues: a look, a pause, a mild joke, a small doubt. Then you move. You call it your decision, but it was pre-shaped by emotional timing. This is where emotional intelligence becomes more than being nice and calm. It becomes the skill of noticing influence before it becomes identity, not to dominate anyone, but to stay unowned in your own head. The first rule is simple, and it feels almost offensive at first. Your emotions are not only feelings, they are signals and handles. Every handle can be grabbed, and every signal can be misread on purpose. People test you to learn which handle moves you fastest. They do not always mean harm, but the method still works. A small tease checks your ego, a delay checks your anxiety, a sudden compliment checks your hunger for approval and status, a vague criticism checks your need to explain and defend. You react, then they learn, then they repeat the same pressure later. This is the hidden training loop, and it builds a remote control. To break the loop, you must stop treating reactions as truth. A reaction is a message from your nervous system, not a verdict. It rises fast because the mind prefers speed over accuracy. The ancient part of you wants safety, belonging, and respect. When those feel threatened, you do not think, you protect. And protection often looks like anger, sarcasm, pleasing, or over-talking. The test is not whether you feel it. The test is timing. Can you feel the wave and still refuse to surf it? That is the core of calm power, delayed response. Delayed response sounds passive, but it is the opposite. It is the active choice to keep your mind unclaimed. When someone pushes your buttons, they want speed from you. Speed creates mistakes, and mistakes create openings for control. A fast reply can lock you into a frame you did not choose. A fast defense can accept a false accusation as the starting point. A fast apology can teach others that pressure buys access to you. A fast joke can hide your discomfort and invite deeper probing. So the first discipline is a pause that belongs to you. The pause is not silence for weakness, it is silence for data. In that pause you watch 3 hidden signals inside yourself. First, you notice where the emotion lands in the body. Tight chest often means fear of loss, not anger at words. Hot face often means status threat, not actual moral outrage. Heavy stomach often means uncertainty, not proof of danger. Second, you notice the story your mind starts writing instantly. This story is usually dramatic, and it assumes motives without evidence. Third, you notice the urge, the impulse to act right now. The urge is the handle, and the handle shows their leverage point. Once you see the handle, you stop being ashamed of it. Shame makes you hide, and hiding keeps the handle unconscious. If you can name it, you can manage it. The naming must be private and simple, like a quiet label. Status threat, approval hunger, fairness trigger, abandonment fear, control need. When you label it, you create distance from the feeling. Distance gives you choice, and choice is the real power. Now the manual gets darker, but it stays safe and honest. Some people do not argue for truth. They argue for position. They use emotions as fog, because fog makes you stumble. They do not need to win the topic. They need to win your state. If they can make you defensive, you will start proving yourself. If they can make you angry, you will start looking unreasonable. If they can make you guilty, you will start giving extra access. And if they can make you confused, you will accept their clarity. You never notice this, but confusion is often planted on purpose. The planted confusion usually comes through 4 common patterns. First, they speak in vague claims, so you chase details forever. Second, they mix praise with criticism, so you crave the next approval. Third, they ask loaded questions, so any answer sounds like confession. Fourth, they change the standard, so you can never fully succeed. None of this requires shouting. It only requires timing and tone, and the target is always the same, your emotional autopilot. The antidote is not aggression, it is structure inside your mind. Structure means you decide what you will respond to, and when. You do not respond to vibes, you respond to clear statements. You do not respond to pressure, you respond to your own values. You do not respond to implied accusations, you request precision calmly. Precision is a spotlight, and many games die under light. There is a simple mental move that protects your dignity fast. You separate the content from the frame. Content is what they said, frame is what they imply about you. A test often hides in the frame, not the content. The content might be small, but the frame is disrespect. The content might be random, but the frame is superiority. If you fight the content, you miss the real attack vector. If you protect the frame, the content becomes manageable. Protecting the frame does not mean insulting anyone back. It means you choose your self-definition before they define you. You act like your calm is non-negotiable, because it is. You act like respect is normal, not something you beg for. You act like your attention is valuable, because it trains people. Attention is currency, and you spend it with intention. When you spend it on tests, you fund more tests. When you spend it on clarity, you build better exchanges. This is where emotional intelligence becomes strategic without becoming cruel. You learn that kindness without boundaries becomes self-betrayal. You learn that boundaries without calm become pure conflict. The balance is calm boundaries, delivered with clean words. Clean words are short, slow, and free of extra emotion. Extra emotion is an invitation for them to steer you. To stay calm when people test you, use 3 inner rules. First, never rush to explain your worth. It makes you cheap. Second, never chase approval from someone who enjoys withholding it. Third, never answer a distorted frame. Correct the frame first. Correcting the frame can be as simple as a neutral question. What exactly do you mean by that claim? Which specific part are you referring to right now? What outcome are you actually asking for from me? These questions pull the hidden game into visible language. Visible language reduces manipulation because it demands commitment. Another hidden truth is harder to accept, but it frees you. People respect emotional control more than emotional display. This does not mean being cold. It means being unpushable. When someone cannot move you, they must deal with reality. When someone can move you, they deal with your reaction instead. They will always choose the easier path because humans are efficient. So your calm becomes a silent negotiation tool. Calm also protects your mind from your own pride. Pride wants to win, even when winning costs you. Pride wants the last word, even when silence is stronger. Pride wants to prove, even when proving feeds the other side. You never notice this, but pride can be a trapdoor. A small insult can pull you into hours of mental noise. Then you lose focus, sleep, and clarity without gaining anything. That is a tax on your life, paid to someone else. So you build a private code, and you follow it every time. When you feel provoked, you slow your breathing quietly. You relax the jaw, because jaw tension signals inner threat. You keep your voice steady, because steady voice holds the frame. You keep your sentences short, because long sentences leak insecurity. You do not over-smile, because over-smiling looks like asking permission. You do not over-explain, because over-explaining sounds like pleading. You answer only what is real, not what is implied. The most advanced part is learning to enjoy the pause. Most people fear the pause, because it feels like losing. But the pause is where you reclaim authorship of your mind. If the other person fills the pause with more pressure, you learn. You learn they want control, not understanding. And once you see that, you stop offering them your nervous system. You offer only your clarity, and your clarity has conditions. There is one more secret most people miss about tests. The test is often not about you. It is about their insecurity. They poke to see if you can be made smaller. If you shrink, they feel bigger, and they relax for a moment. If you stay steady, they must face their own inner chaos. That is why they escalate, because your calm exposes them. Your calm becomes a mirror, and mirrors make people uncomfortable. So the real lesson is not how to win against people. The real lesson is how to stay clean inside yourself. Clean means you do not let their state become your state. Clean means you do not let their frame become your identity. Clean means you do not let their urgency become your timeline. And clean means you do not trade long-term self-respect for short peace. Now notice the twist, because it changes everything. Every time you stay calm under a test, you become harder to program. But every time you finally react even once, you teach a pattern. So the question is not whether you can control your anger. The question is which hidden trigger is still controlling you silently. And if someone already knows that trigger, what else do they know? You assume silence means safety, but silence can be a pressure tool. You think you are choosing peace, but you might be choosing surrender. If you want real control, learn the language behind the pause. There is a difference between calm silence and forced silence. Calm silence is chosen, and it protects your attention. Forced silence is imposed, and it steals your sense of agency. You never notice this, but many tests do not use words. They use absence, delay, and uncertainty to pull your mind forward. When your mind leans forward, you become easier to steer. The second rule is about emotional gravity. Whoever controls the emotional center controls the interaction. The emotional center is the feeling that sets the weather inside you. If you feel anxious, you seek relief, and you give concessions. If you feel guilty, you seek forgiveness, and you overoffer. If you feel excited, you chase promise, and you miss risk. If you feel ashamed, you hide truth, and you accept bad frames. So the hidden game is often about choosing your weather for you. The simplest method is delay with no explanation. A delay can be normal, but it can also be a probe. It checks how quickly you start imagining worst outcomes. It checks whether you will chase, plead, or over-clarify. It checks whether your self-respect depends on fast response. When you chase, you show that uncertainty owns you. When uncertainty owns you, someone else can rent your attention. Another method is selective warmth. Given only after compliance, warmth becomes a reward, and you start working for it. You never notice this, but reward is stronger than punishment. Reward creates hope, and hope makes people endure discomfort longer. A cold tone, then a small praise, then another cold tone. Your brain starts tracking the pattern like a hungry machine. You start adjusting yourself to earn the next warm moment. That is not connection, that is conditioning. The safest reframing is this: do not demonize the person. Treat the pattern as a system, not as a villain. Systems can be copied without deep intent and still cause harm. Your job is not to accuse. Your job is to stay free. Freedom begins when you stop needing the reward. So you build an inner rule. You never beg for warmth. You can request clarity, but you do not request permission to exist. You can offer respect, but you do not buy it with anxiety. This is the emotional intelligence that looks like quiet strength. It is not rude, it is grounded and self-owned. Now look at a subtler lever, the controlled compliment. A compliment can be sincere, but it can also be a hook. It praises a trait you start protecting like a fragile trophy. You are so mature, you are always calm, you are so loyal. The compliment sounds positive, but it creates a role trap. Once you accept the role, you fear breaking the image. Then you become predictable, because you must stay consistent. You never notice this, but consistency can be used against you. The way out is to enjoy praise without signing a contract. You can accept the kind words without becoming their product. You remind yourself privately, my identity is not for sale. Then you keep your behavior aligned with values, not with labels. Labels are sticky, and sticky things attract control attempts. Another hidden lever is the false choice. Two options are offered, and both options serve their agenda. Do you want to prove you care, or prove you are selfish? Do you want to agree now, or disappoint everyone later? Your mind feels trapped, because the frame is already hostile. If you pick one option, you still accept their framing. That is how people lose power, while feeling decisive. The answer is to step outside the choice. You name a third option that restores your agency. I will decide after I review the facts calmly. I will discuss this when we can speak with respect. I will respond to a clear request, not to implied guilt. These lines are not attacks. They are boundary architecture. Architecture holds weight, and weight is what pressure tests reveal. Pressure tests often look like urgency. Urgency makes your mind narrow, and narrow minds obey shortcuts. You never notice this, but urgency is often manufactured. It creates a countdown feeling, even when no real deadline exists. Under countdown, you trade quality for relief. You do not choose the best move, you choose the fastest exit. That is why calm people look slow to anxious people. They are not slow, they are refusing false deadlines. To neutralize urgency, you use time as a shield. You say, I will think and return with a clear answer. You say, I do not decide under pressure, I decide under clarity. You say it once, then you repeat it like a broken lock. A lock does not argue, it simply does not open. Many people fail here because they over-justify. Over-justifying invites negotiation of your boundary. A boundary is not a debate, it is a design choice. Now comes the part most people avoid, emotional debt. Emotional debt is when kindness becomes a bill. Someone gives a favor, then later demands compliance. They may not demand openly, they may suggest you owe them. You never notice this, but debt language triggers guilt fast. Guilt is a social emotion. It tries to preserve belonging, so guilt will push you to pay, even when the price is unfair. The answer is gratitude without bondage. You can appreciate help while rejecting hidden invoices. You keep the exchange clean by stating reality. I appreciate that, and I still need to choose what is right. I value your support, and I cannot commit to that request. This is not cold, it is honest, and honesty reduces manipulation space. Another silent weapon is the shifting standard. The rule changes after you meet the rule. You do what was asked, then it becomes not enough. You never noticed this, but this creates learned helplessness. Your brain starts believing effort will not lead to stability. Then you seek guidance from the same person causing the instability. That is the trap. Instability creates dependency on their approval. You break it by tracking agreements like a scientist, not with drama, with calm memory and clear language. You said this would be enough. Is that still true now? What is the exact standard you want, stated in simple terms? When will we consider this complete, with no extra changes? These questions force accountability into the open. Accountability is sunlight, and many games fade in sunlight. Now look at your own risk, the rescue reflex. Some people test you by acting weak, confused, or overwhelmed. You step in to fix because you fear being seen as selfish. You never notice this, but rescuing can be ego too. It proves you are needed, and needed feels like safety. But constant rescuing trains others to stay helpless around you. Then you become trapped because you created your own workload. The antidote is compassionate limits. You can care without carrying. You can help without owning. You offer options, not endless access. I can support for a short time, then I must stop. I can share advice, but you will take the next step. This protects your energy, and it teaches healthy responsibility. The deepest part of this rule is inner leadership. Inner leadership means your mind has a clear chain of command. Feelings can report information, but they cannot issue orders. When feelings issue orders, anyone can trigger feelings to command you. So you train a simple sequence. Notice, label, breathe, choose. Notice the pull, label the lever, breathe to slow the system. Choose a response that matches values, not the moment. This is how you stay calm when people test you. But here is the unsettling twist, and you must face it. Sometimes the silence is not their tool, it is your avoidance. Sometimes the delay is not a test, it is your fear of clarity. Sometimes you call it calm because you do not want conflict. You never notice this, but avoiding truth is also being controlled by your need to be liked and your fear of disapproval. So you must ask yourself a sharper question than before. When you stay quiet, are you choosing strategy or choosing comfort? And if you are choosing comfort, who is training you through relief? You think you read people well, but you mostly read your own fear. Someone can guide your emotions by guiding your interpretation of reality. If you want mental freedom, learn how frames hijack perception. The third rule is about the frame, not the fact. A fact is a piece of information that can be checked. A frame is the meaning wrapped around that information. Most influence happens through frames, because frames decide what matters. When a frame enters your mind, it starts choosing your reactions. You never notice this, but your mind obeys the first explanation. The first explanation feels like truth, because it arrived first. Then every new detail gets bent to fit that first meaning. This is why calm people can still be controlled. They stay calm on the surface, but they accept the wrong frame. Once the frame is accepted, the outcome is already guided. You can lose with perfect manners and not understand why. So emotional intelligence must include frame awareness. It is the ability to separate your value from their narrative. A common frame is the competence trap. Someone implies you are not capable without saying it directly. They ask you to prove, to justify, to show evidence constantly. You start performing, and performing becomes your identity. You never notice this, but performance creates exhaustion. Exhaustion reduces judgment, and reduced judgment increases compliance. This is not about skill, it is about energy theft. Another frame is the loyalty trap. They define loyalty as agreement, and disagreement as betrayal. You start editing your honest thoughts to avoid guilt. Then you lose access to your own inner signals. Without inner signals, you depend on their approval to navigate. That dependency is the leverage, not the topic of discussion. Another frame is the morality trap. They claim the high ground, then place you below it. They imply you are selfish, cold, or wrong for having boundaries. You feel a spike of shame, then you soften your position. You never notice this, but shame is a fast control chemical. It makes people apologize for needs that are normal and healthy. The way out is not to fight harder, it is to reframe faster. Reframing means you choose a different meaning on purpose. You do it calmly, because calm keeps the nervous system open. When the system is open, you can think in more than one option. When the system is closed, you accept the strongest voice as truth. The most useful inner reframe is this: pressure is information. Pressure shows what the other side wants and what you fear losing. It reveals the hidden map of values and insecurities. If you treat pressure as an emergency, you get impulsive. If you treat pressure as data, you get strategic and steady. Now notice the hidden move that frames use. They skip evidence. A frame enters as an assumption, and you answer as if true. You answer the assumption, and that makes it feel confirmed. This is how false frames become solid, through your cooperation. You never notice this, but answering can be a form of agreement. Not agreement with the content, but agreement with the premise. So you train a boundary at the level of premise. You refuse to accept premises that insult your reality. You do it without anger, because anger makes you look guilty. You do it with precision, because precision forces accountability. You do it with short sentences, because short sentences hold power. A simple method is the premise check question. What makes you assume that is true about me? What evidence are you using for that conclusion? What definition are you using for that word right now? These questions are calm, but they are sharp. They cut through fog and expose whether there is substance. Another method is the values anchor. You state your value, then you state your choice. I value respect, so I will not continue with insults. I value clarity, so I will answer when the request is specific. I value fairness, so I will not accept shifting standards. You never notice this, but values are harder to argue with. Facts can be debated, but values set the rules of engagement. Now here is a deeper layer: internal frames. Even if nobody says anything, your mind frames events instantly. Your internal frame can be your worst manipulator. It can interpret neutral signals as rejection or danger. Then you start reacting to threats that do not exist. That reaction invites real conflict, and you blame the outside. This is why self-awareness is not a luxury, it is protection. Internal frames often come from old patterns, not current reality. If you learned that love is unstable, you fear silence. If you learned that mistakes bring punishment, you fear feedback. If you learned that boundaries bring abandonment, you overgive. You never notice this, but the past can speak using the present. Then you think you are being wise, but you are being trained. To correct internal frames, you use a 3-step reset. First, you describe what happened without meaning words. They paused, they looked away, they did not respond quickly. Second, you list 3 possible explanations, not just one: busy, distracted, thinking, uncertain, or simply neutral. Third, you choose the explanation that leads to dignity. Dignity does not mean denial, it means stable self-respect. This reset protects you from mind reading. Mind reading is when you invent motives and punish them internally. It feels smart, but it is usually anxiety wearing a suit. You never notice this, but mind reading steals your calm. Then you approach people tense, and tension creates the reaction you feared. Now look at a classic external pattern, the frame of inevitability. Someone speaks as if their outcome is the only realistic outcome. They say, everyone knows, it is obvious, there is no alternative. This frame tries to kill your imagination. Without imagination, you cannot see options, and you accept their path. The antidote is to reopen alternatives with simple language. I see more than one option here. I am not convinced this is the only realistic path. I will decide after comparing alternatives calmly. Another external pattern is the frame of scarcity. They imply time, attention, or opportunity is running out. Scarcity creates tunnel vision, and tunnel vision creates compliance. You never notice this, but scarcity also creates attachment. Attachment makes you tolerate disrespect. To avoid losing access, to break scarcity, you remember your ability to walk away. Walking away is not drama, it is a mental position. It is the knowledge that your worth is not trapped in one door. Then there is the frame of reciprocity, which sounds polite. They imply you must give because they gave before. Reciprocity is healthy when it is mutual and transparent. It becomes a trap when it is used as a leash. You break it by naming the difference calmly. I appreciate what you did, and this request is separate. I will respond based on what is right, not what is owed. Now comes the most dangerous frame, the frame of identity. They tell you what you are, then punish you for resisting. You are too sensitive, you are difficult, you are selfish. These labels are not descriptions, they are control commands. If you accept the label, you start acting to escape it. You never noticed this, but labels create a chase response. You chase a better label and they become the label giver. The antidote is identity refusal. You refuse to debate your identity because identity debates are traps. You return to behavior and specifics, not personality judgments. If you have a concern, state the behavior and the impact. If you want a change, state the request clearly. I will not discuss labels. I will discuss specific actions. This sentence is a shield, and it stays calm. Now add one more layer, your own framing power. You are not only defending, you are also setting tone. When you speak, you can offer a frame that invites health. You can frame boundaries as respect, not punishment. You can frame time as quality, not delay. You can frame disagreement as clarity, not conflict. This is influence without domination. It is leadership of atmosphere. To do this, you must control your emotional narration. Emotional narration is the hidden voice that explains your feelings. If it says danger, your body tightens and your words sharpen. If it says opportunity, your body relaxes and your words open. You never notice this, but the narration is a lever, and the lever can be adjusted with practice and honesty. Here is a practical inner script that keeps frames clean. I might be wrong, so I will ask for clarity. I will not accept insults as feedback. I will not accept urgency as a reason to abandon judgment. I will respond to facts, and I will choose my meaning. This script is not magic. It is mental discipline. Now the psychological twist you must face is uncomfortable. Some people do not need to convince you. They need you to doubt you. Doubt makes you seek guidance, and guidance creates dependence. So they will attack your frame of self-trust, not your argument. If your self-trust breaks, your calm becomes empty and passive. So ask yourself this: what frame do you accept that weakens your self-trust, and who benefits each time you accept it without question? You think your patience is virtue, but it can be a leash. Someone can drain your energy slowly, while you call it maturity. If you want calm power, protect your attention like a guarded door. The fourth rule is energy economy. Your attention is the fuel of your emotional system. Whoever gets your attention gets influence over your mood. You never notice this, but many games aim at exhaustion first. An exhausted mind stops choosing and starts surrendering to shortcuts. Exhaustion does not need shouting, it needs repetition and confusion. The most common drain is endless engagement. A topic keeps looping, but nothing gets resolved. You keep responding, hoping clarity will arrive soon. Each response invests you deeper, and deeper creates attachment. Attachment makes you fear walking away because you already paid. This is the sunk cost trap, but it feels like responsibility. Another drain is micro-provocation. Small jabs that are deniable, then a calm face after. If you react, you look unstable and they look reasonable. If you ignore, you feel disrespected and you hold tension. Either way, your nervous system pays, and they collect data. You never notice this, but provocation often seeks your rhythm. Once they know your rhythm, they can break it on command. The antidote is selective engagement. You do not attend every invitation to react. You choose what deserves a response and what deserves silence. Silence here is not fear. Silence is refusal to fund the game. Refusal becomes visible through consistency, not through speeches. Consistency requires a personal policy. A policy is a rule you follow even when emotional. You decide what behavior gets access to you. You decide how many repeats you allow before you exit. You decide what tone is acceptable and what ends the exchange. A policy is calm because it is pre-decided. A classic trap is the moving conversation. The topic shifts every time you get close to resolution. You answer one point, then another point appears instantly. Your mind tries to keep up and starts feeling behind. Feeling behind creates urgency, and urgency weakens boundaries. You never notice this, but speed is a weapon when you chase it. The counter-move is narrowing. You name one point, and you keep it there. We will handle one issue, then move to the next. I will respond when the point stays stable and clear. This is not control of them, it is control of your focus. Another trap is emotional flooding. Too many claims, too many feelings, too many demands at once. Flooding pushes you into compliance just to reduce pressure. You give a quick yes, then regret arrives later. Regret then creates self-blame, and self-blame weakens self-trust. The counter-move is pace setting. I will respond slowly because accuracy matters more than speed. I will take time because pressure does not decide for me. These sentences are simple, but they reset the tempo. Tempo is power because tempo shapes nervous system state. Now notice a deeper drain, the guilt engine. Guilt appears when you fear being seen as bad. People can hint that your boundary is cruelty. They can call your no selfishness, even without saying it. Your body feels tension, then you offer extra to look good. You never notice this, but guilt often buys obedience cheaply. The antidote is clean conscience. Clean conscience means your no is aligned with your values. When your no is aligned, guilt has less grip. You can feel guilt sensations without letting guilt drive actions. You remind yourself, discomfort is not proof of wrongdoing. Another drain is explanation addiction. You believe if you explain enough, they will finally understand. But some people do not seek understanding. They seek openings. Each extra sentence gives them a new angle to twist. You never notice this, but long explanations leak power. Power leaks through details that can be attacked. The antidote is brief clarity. You state your decision, then you stop. You do not argue with someone committed to misunderstanding. You do not negotiate your right to have boundaries. You repeat your boundary like a stable wall. A wall does not persuade, it simply holds shape. Another drain is emotional caretaking. You manage their feelings to avoid their reaction. You soften truth until truth disappears. This creates hidden resentment, and resentment poisons calm from inside. You never notice this, but fake harmony is still conflict. It is conflict moved underground, where it grows quietly. The antidote is respectful directness. You can be kind without being vague. You can be firm without being cruel. You say what you mean, and you mean what you say. This reduces future battles, because reality becomes predictable. Now here is the most important internal skill, attention discipline. Attention discipline means you choose your mental focus on purpose. When someone triggers you, your mind wants to replay it. Replay feels like problem solving, but it is often rumination. Rumination drains energy, then you become easier to push. You never notice this, but rumination is self-manipulation, so you build a mental exit. You name the trigger, then you return to your priorities. You move your focus to breath, posture, and simple tasks. This is not avoidance, it is refusing mental captivity. Captivity is when one moment owns your whole day. You also set a boundary with access. Access means how often you are reachable, and how quickly. Quick access can train others to expect instant compliance. Delayed access can protect your nervous system and your judgment. You never notice this, but responsiveness is a signal of rank. When you respond instantly to pressure, you signal lower control. The safe approach is balanced responsiveness. You respond when it is appropriate, not when you are summoned. You keep your timelines consistent, and you do not apologize for them. You apologize only for real mistakes, not for having a life. Now the twist that changes how you see everything. Sometimes your biggest drain is not them, it is your inner argument. You argue with an imagined version of them for hours. They are not even present, but they still get your energy. That means the real lever is inside your attention habits. So answer this question carefully. Who gets the most of your attention, the person or the pattern? You think fairness protects you, but fairness can become a leash. Someone can trigger your conscience, then guide your choices quietly. If you want inner freedom, learn moral calm without moral surrender. Your fifth rule is moral clarity, with a final lock. Many tests do not attack your logic, they attack your self-image. They aim at the part of you that wants to be good. Goodness is powerful, but it becomes fragile without boundaries. You never notice this, but fragile goodness is easy to steer. The first moral trap is forced responsibility. They place their feelings in your hands, then watch you carry them. If you do not fix their discomfort, you feel like a bad person. Then you start managing their mood instead of managing reality. This is how guilt becomes a steering wheel. Guilt does not prove you did wrong. Guilt proves you care. Care is not consent, and care is not obligation. To stay calm, separate empathy from ownership. Empathy means you understand the feeling, not that you absorb it. Ownership means you caused it, or you agreed to handle it. You can say, I understand this feels hard for you. You can also say, I cannot take responsibility for that choice. This keeps your heart open and your spine strong. The second moral trap is performative goodness. You are pushed to prove you are kind, patient and forgiving. You fear looking harsh, so you tolerate subtle disrespect. You never notice this, but the fear of looking bad is control. It makes you trade private truth for public approval. Approval feels safe, but it can become a cage. The antidote is quiet integrity. Integrity means your behavior matches your values without an audience. You do not need to look kind. You need to be true. Truth can be gentle, and it can still be firm. You can say no without adding a long defense. A calm no is not cruelty, it is self-respect in action. The third moral trap is the fairness hook. Someone frames their request as fairness, so refusal feels immoral. They say, if you were fair, you would do this. Your mind reacts because fairness is a deep social value. You never notice this, but fairness can be redefined mid-sentence. They define fair as whatever benefits them most right now, so you demand definitions, not vibes. What does fair mean here in specific terms? What exact exchange are you proposing? With clear limits. What do I give? What do I receive? And by when? Fairness without specifics is often a pressure costume. Specifics turn costumes into measurable agreements. The fourth moral trap is the victim frame. Pain can be real and still be used for leverage. Someone emphasizes suffering to gain authority over your choices. You hesitate to question them because you fear being heartless. You never notice this, but compassion can be exploited through urgency. Urgency makes you skip verification and skip boundaries. The antidote is compassionate skepticism. You validate emotion, then you verify requests. I hear you, and I need clarity before I agree. I care, and I still need to protect my limits. This protects both sides because it prevents resentment later. Resentment is what happens when compassion becomes self-betrayal. The fifth moral trap is moral flipping. They accuse you of what they are doing to you. They call you controlling when you set a boundary. They call you selfish when you stop overgiving. They call you dishonest when you request clear facts. You never notice this, but accusations can be distraction. They pull your focus away from their behavior and onto your defense. The antidote is the return to observable behavior. I will discuss specific actions, not labels about character. I will respond to clear examples, not vague accusations. If you want change, state a clear request respectfully. This removes emotional fog and removes identity traps. Now the close, because you want completion inside this part. You need a final sequence that ends most tests quickly. This sequence is calm, ethical, and hard to exploit. It uses 6 moves that lock your inner state. First, you slow your body to slow your mind. You relax your jaw and you breathe lower and slower. You never notice this, but calm posture blocks panic thinking. Second, you name the frame privately inside your mind. Guilt hook, urgency push, label trap or shifting standard. Naming turns fog into an object you can hold. Third, you request precision in one clean sentence. What exactly are you asking me to do right now? Precision kills implied debt and implied shame. Fourth, you set a boundary with a clear condition. I will consider this if the request stays respectful and specific. Conditions protect kindness from being harvested. Fifth, you choose time, because time reveals intent. I will respond after I think, not during pressure. People who want truth can wait. People who want control cannot. Sixth, you exit without drama if the game continues. I am ending this conversation now. We can revisit later. A calm exit teaches your nervous system. It is safe to leave. Now, lock the deepest principle. Your no does not need punishment. Your no is a boundary, not a revenge move. If you punish, you create fear, and fear invites more games. If you stay calm, you create predictability, and tests lose value. There is also the apology trap, and it hides in politeness. You are pushed to apologize for normal needs and limits. Sorry becomes a ritual to reduce tension, not to correct mistakes. You never notice this, but constant sorry lowers your inner rank. It tells your mind you are wrong for existing strongly, so you use accurate accountability. Apologize only for what you truly did wrong. Replace sorry for boundaries with thanks for understanding. Thanks keeps warmth, and it keeps your spine. Now run a conscience audit before any yes. Is this aligned with my values or with my fear? Is this request clear or is it emotional pressure? Will I respect myself tomorrow if I agree today? If any answer feels unstable, you slow down again. The final twist is the most uncomfortable one. Some people do not want your help. They want your guilt. Guilt keeps you available, and availability is their real reward. So ask yourself this. When guilt rises, who benefits first?